Okay, so this is podcast number 3. We said we're not going to number them anymore.
I swear
so
I
we'll
wasn't.
stop.
I wasn't going to if I did the intro, and there you are. You did it.
And I did it. Okay, so why don't you?
All right.
So you had something you want to talk about?
So yeah, there is something I wanted. There were a couple of things I wanted to touch on today. I know you have a couple of things too. One thing was there was an article in the New York Post last week. I think it was last week, a few days ago anyway, and it was a post. It was an article on happiness.
Okay.
Apparently, happiness is now toxic.
Okay.
It's considered toxic. It is, psychologists say that you shouldn't be too happy. And if you get too happy, that it might mean that you are forcing it. And the term that they use, which is interesting, I don't entirely disagree with this article, by the way. It's not very deep, but I don't disagree with a lot of things they say. They call it a saccharine trait.
What does that mean? I thought saccharin was
it's an artificial sweetener.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what they're saying. Happiness. They call it toxic positivity.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So the headline said even happiness is toxic because a lot of people talk about happiness. They want to be happy. They deserve to be happy, and and all that. But it's interesting. If you go to great. Oh yeah. Sorry. Go to 12.
Okay. Everything toxic now, even being happy. Are you guilty of this personality trait once considered to be a plus?
Right.
First of all, these headlines are really hard to understand. They're written in such a weird way.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Who writes these?
Okay, so just go down to, I don't know, that's just above that guy's head.
Oh, okay.
Okay. People who spend most of their time looking on the bright side can wind up falling into a trap of what's known as toxic positivity.
Yeah.
A saccharine trait defined by Psychology Today as the act of avoiding, suppressing, or rejecting negative emotions or experiences. So they're saying that proves there could be too much of a good thing. Wow, look at that guy. He looks really
happy. That guy has too much of a good thing going on.
Scroll down a little bit. Scroll down a little bit. So,
okay.
Keep going. Well, there's a happy lady. Oh,
all right.
Man.
Now they picked people who obviously look psychotic.
She looks like, you want to take me out to a movie?
I feel like she's holding a kitchen knife behind her back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I looked it up. I looked up toxic positivity. Apparently it's a big thing. I never heard of it. I've never known what it is.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of that term?
No.
It's all over YouTube. There are tons of videos on toxic positivity. Apparently it's a thing. It's been around for a couple of years. And my contention, even though I never heard of this term before about being happy, is that a lot of people talk about they deserve to be happy. They want to be happy. Even therapists will tell people, oh, you should be happy. And they give them things to make them happy, to make them feel good. And reading this article and going to the Psychology Today link that they have in there, we're not going to go over it all here. But, it seems like they're finally catching on that there is something to chronic, forced, artificial happiness that maybe isn't such a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
So it's like, what I say is if you feel better than you deserve to feel, we're either feeling okay or we're not feeling okay, but no one really deserves to be happy. And there are all these different definitions of happiness. Religions have definitions. I'm happy because I love Jesus or whatever it is. Buddhism has a different term. Neurologists are always talking about how they talk about your mood. They talk about how the different neurotransmitters in the brain affect mood, dopamine and oxytocin and serotonin, and all that sort of stuff. My contention is that it's not a good thing to feel better than you deserve to feel. And that when you seek things to make you feel happy, it's not really happiness you're looking for. You're looking to compensate for a sadness that is real. But you're looking for that saccharin. You're looking for the artificial happiness.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. So it's almost like people are it's like adding sugar when you already put in too much salt, right?
No, I don't get that at all. What do you mean?
If you have a let's say you're baking a cake, and you made it way too salty.
Yeah. Oh,
you can't add more sugar to counteract it.
No,
it's not going to work.
It just
you just have a salty, sweet cake. It'll be disgusting. You'll just throw up.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So you can't do that.
Right. So the thing is this: by
the way, I got a pop up from New York Post for porn stars and Playboy models in the middle of reading this article.
Really?
Yeah, it's crazy. Their pop-ups are like insane.
I got an Ozempic ad.
How? I guess they're targeting us.
No, no.
I don't know.
So
It's like, oh, we got a 28-year-old over here, and we got a 60-something-year-old over here.
oh boy. So my view of the way I look at happiness is it's not ecstasy. It's the absence of sadness. Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds overly simple. Well, it is overly simple.
It's not supposed to be blissful.
Not supposed to be blissful. You're not supposed to be ecstatic.
No.
And that's what people are looking for.
Or euphoric.
Or euphoric. They're looking for those things. And that causes people to overcompensate for sadness that they have within them. And that's why people, they drink, they overeat, food, sex,
Right.
sports, gambling. What else? They take drugs. They take
drugs, social interaction, relationships. Basically
entertainment. Music is a big one.
Music, yeah.
SNRIs, SSRIs.
Yeah.
Nicotine is a very powerful antidepressant. These are
so they're basically things that change your hormonal state and biochemical state in order to compensate for the pain that you're in.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
And they call that happiness.
But it's an overindulgence, and it becomes addictive because the moment you stop, you start feeling the way you're supposed to feel because of the way you are.
Yeah.
But why do you feel that way? Why do you feel sad? Why are you so sad that you need to be happy?
Yeah.
That's the thing. And there's a reason for that. It's called resentment. The problem with seeking those things out is that you never get to the bottom of what made you sad or what made you unhappy in the first place. It's really usually guilt.
Yeah.
But what made you that way in the first place? And if you do that, you never get better. You never change. And the moment you stop those medicaments, you become sad again, unhappy again. And then you have to go back to it. Even a therapist, you go to a therapist and you feel better coming out of it. I've never been to a therapist, but I know people that go to therapists and go, oh, I just had therapy today. I feel wonderful. And like 2 days later, they walk outside and life smacks them in the face again. And then there they are,
Well, people go to therapy. I think when people go to therapy, all they do is just talk about themselves. They do a lot of talking about themselves in therapy, which can't be good for you either.
No, it's
You're just
self-centered.
becoming self-centered, self-obsessed.
Correct.
Actually, I saw a I'm gonna pull it up because it was good. It was a tweet from I don't think I could pull it up. Okay. I'll just tell you about it then. What's his name? Sean Ono Lennon.
Yeah, sure.
I think that's his.
Sean Lennon, yeah.
Sean Lennon.
Oh, I don't know what Sean Lennon I think of.
I know, but I think he's going by Sean Ono Lennon.
Oh,
now.
okay.
Okay.
Right.
I mean, and he's John Lennon's son.
Right.
And Yoko Ono's son.
Yeah. He's got the dark hair.
I think so.
Yeah, right.
And he put out a post that said, self-loathing is a form of narcissism. And it's true. You're so obsessed with yourself and hating yourself.
Right.
You're a selfish person.
Right.
For hating yourself. You're so concentrated on yourself, even if it's hate, you're not thinking about other people. It's true.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
So it's good insight.
That is a good insight. Yeah. No, it's happiness is the absence of sadness. Sadness is really just resentment in disguise. It comes in all these different forms. It could be grief, by the way.
Yeah.
People grieve over the loss of a loved one, whatever. That's a form of resentment, but you get over it. You get over it quickly if you're conscious. Okay, so I have something good for you.
Okay.
Go to 13.
Toxic positivity test.
Right. I'm going to test you for your toxic positivity right now.
All right.
So I don't want you to read it. I'm going to read it to you, and I'm going to record your answers.
Okay.
Okay? All right. In my experience, meaning your experience, this goes quick. In my experience, in your experience, giving space to negativity only brings one further down. Not me, describes me somewhat, or definitely me.
I don't understand the question.
Okay. In your experience, you.
Okay. So can you start the question over? Yeah.
Sure.
I don't know what you just told me.
Okay. This is question number one. There are 10 questions. We'll go through them quickly.
Okay.
In your experience, giving space to negativity only brings one further down. Not you, describes you somewhat, definitely you.
Okay. This is obviously written by somebody who's into like psychology and academia and these like emotional things. I can't even understand what that question means. Giving space to negative. What does that mean? Giving space to negativity.
I know.
It's hard
I was able to
comprehend.
take the test.
Go ahead. Read it again.
I know you can comprehend it. Okay.
I just think it's the question itself is obviously written by somebody coming into this with
Just make the conversion to normal human language in your head.
yeah, it's already not a real question. There's no real yes or no because it's a made up idea. The
Okay.
idea is made up. It's a fake thing. There's no such thing as giving space to negative. Okay, go ahead.
It's just a fun test.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. I'm going to read it as it is. I'm not going to convert it to you. I'm going to, it says,
Yeah. Just
says
read it
mine,
again.
okay?
Just read again.
In my experience, giving space to negativity only brings one further down. Not me, describes me somewhat, definitely me.
Okay, I'll say definitely me. I don't know. Definitely me. That was my interpretation of this question. I don't know what it means. Yeah.
Okay.
Giving space to negativity. Yeah, I don't like giving space to negativity. Okay. Yes. I interpret that as harboring resentment.
If you don't like it, then it'd be not you.
No, because it brings you down. In my experience, when I
No,
harbor
but I don't want
resentment,
you-
it brings me down.
No, you're not supposed to analyze. You're just supposed to answer the question.
I know.
In
That's
my ex-
definitely me.
In my experience, giving space to negativity only brings one further down.
Yes.
Definitely you. Okay.
Definitely me. Because when I harbor
No,
resentment, I don't feel good. That's not a good thing to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
I pretend to be happy even when I'm not. Not me describes me somewhat or definitely me.
Not me.
Okay. Question number 3. I often feel guilty for feeling sad. Not me describes me somewhat, definitely me.
Definitely me.
You feel guilty for feeling sad.
Yes, because right. No, no, it doesn't happen often, but if I do feel sad, I know that I'm probably harboring resentments and I'm not dealing with things properly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. This test is written by somebody who doesn't know how to live. So,
Correct, but we're not here to analyze them.
Well,
We're just
I can't help it.
We're just doing a fun
They made
thing.
a crappy test. Go ahead.
They did, but
Next
we're just
question.
having fun. Okay. Question 4 of 10. I try to just get on with it by dismissing my negative emotions. Not me describes me somewhat, definitely me.
Not me.
Okay. Number 5.
Yeah.
I brush difficult issues aside with statements such as, it is what it is. Not me describes me somewhat, definitely me.
Not me.
Okay.
Next question, please.
Can't go to the next one till the site decides it's going to register the answer.
Okay.
And it is just nothing but frozen right now. I'm going to reload the page. All right. Number 6.
Okay.
Number 6. I believe that people who focus too much on their problems instead of just staying positive are likely to become depressed. Not me. Describes me somewhat, definitely me.
Yeah, sure. I believe people who focus on problems become depressed. Yes.
Yeah. See, these questions are dumb.
They don't make sense.
They don't make sense because you don't know whether you're answering it as the person who believes or the person that they're talking about.
No, it's that part is clear. It's obviously asking about what I think about other people, but what it fails to consider is that you can handle difficult things properly
Right.
versus they think that being happy or not is completely dependent on if you're thinking about problems or if you're thinking about happiness. And so they have no idea what the hell they're talking
Okay.
about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can tell they don't.
But you're saying you're agreeing that you believe it.
I believe that people who focus on their problems often become depressed because they don't know how to focus on problems correctly.
Right. But now you're saying it's definitely you, meaning you focus on your problems.
No, it's you've misinterpreted the question completely.
I know. My point is that that's easy to do. Okay.
Yeah.
Number 7 out of 10. When someone is feeling down, I encourage them by saying things like, it could be worse.
When someone is feeling down, I
Encourage them by saying things like, it could be worse. Not me, describes me somewhat, or definitely me.
I don't normally say that. No.
So not you.
Yeah, not me.
It could be worse. Okay.
What is it? Mel Brooks? What's going on?
8 of 10.
Okay.
I hide my mask. Oh, excuse me. I hide or mask my negative feelings. Not me, describes me, definitely me.
Not me.
Okay. 9 out of 10. I minimize my negative experiences with feel-good statements or quotes.
Not me.
Okay. I force myself to be happy by focusing on the positive.
Not me.
Okay. So we have finished. We're going to assess. You ready?
Yeah.
mild indication of toxic positivity.
Oh, that's me. That's me. That's definitely me.
Your answer suggests that you have a mild indication of toxic positivity. You're occasionally inclined toward excessive and ineffective optimism, and there are times when you dismiss the existence of negative emotions. Furthermore,
No, I don't.
Furthermore,
No,
you are sometimes inclined to pretend to be happy when you're not.
I don't.
Finally, you are at times disposed to force positive emotions on others who are hurting,
Oh, I torture people.
and you are inclined to deny the truth of what they or you are feeling. However,
Oh my God, this is written by a modern psychologist. It is
Yeah.
so odd. They think that you have no control. They think that outside stimuli have complete control over whether you're happy or not. They think that
Right.
if something's bad happening, if something bad is happening, you should be angry. If something good is happening, you should be happy. They have no idea that how you handle things on the inside is what matters, and it's written like somebody who is completely at the whim of their own environment. So it's stupid.
they're saying, please note that this test does not measure pessimism, and tests such as this cannot replace the judgment of a mental health professional. So don't worry. Just go see a shrink and you'll be okay.
Yeah.
If you feel that these results
Right.
are inaccurate and you want to know more about your mental attitude, there could still be value in scheduling an appointment with your mental health professional.
No.
Yeah,
No. They don't know what they're talking about.
I know.
Stupid.
But the point I wanted to make about happiness is that, you can change. You can change. And, sadness is just a result of basically resentment. And like did you mention judging yourself before?
Well, like I said, self-loathing is a form of narcissism. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when you become conscious, you become awake, you become aware, you step back from thoughts and you watch the thoughts and all of those, that stinking thinking, you've heard of that phrase. That doesn't affect you anymore. It
Yeah.
doesn't get into you. And you become neutral.
Okay.
You become neutral, which is contentment. And that's how that works. All right. So that was what I wanted to bring up about happiness
All right.
and the toxic positivity test, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they're catching on. They know that there are people who are phony.
Mm-hmm.
They're not really happy.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So you had something you wanted to talk about also?
Okay. So the RFK hearing.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Right. Confirmation hearing.
Right. The confirmation hearing for Robert F. Kennedy Jr. for HHS, right? Health and Human Services Secretary.
Secretary.
Yeah. And he was kind of put through the ringer,
Right.
right?
Oh, yeah.
Did you watch any of it or no?
I saw some of it the first day. I saw some of it a little bit less the second day.
So
I picked up here and there some stuff that I'd like to talk to you about.
So his big focus,
Yeah.
his big push, his entire campaign was about basically processed foods,
Right.
glyphosate, other pesticides and herbicides, and getting that out of the food, and getting eliminating what he calls corporate capture. Corporate capture is the idea that big greedy corporations have come in and have captured the regulatory agencies he basically thinks, let me say it this way. He basically thinks that big greedy corporations have come in and captured the regulatory agencies to make sure that the regulations that they write and the things that they allow benefit the corporations and allow for lots of profits, like creating monopolies and allowing the consumption of certain foods and things that may not be safe. Right. And I think he's right in that the problem is this alignment of corporations and government working together. But I don't like his solutions necessarily, because he is a liberal. He is a Democrat, kind of an old school Democrat. Mm-hmm. And he thinks the problem is greedy corporations. But if you didn't have such strong government control to begin with, there wouldn't be such big regulatory agencies for corporations to come and capture. So his point is eliminating the corporations from the government. I think if you reduce the government, you'd have less corporate control over what we're allowed to eat.
Right. It's the power is in the government, and then it's the corporations that beseech that lobby the government agencies in order to exercise
Right.
that power in their
Right.
behalf.
So if you have a powerful government, you will necessarily have corporations lobbying that government
Yeah,
to
that's right.
try and get that power. So the real solution, in my opinion, is to reduce that power.
Smaller government.
Smaller government.
Right.
And I don't know if he thinks that.
I don't think he does.
I just think he wants a stronger, less corrupt government, which
Right.
I think is kind of an oxymoron.
Well, he's
So-
a lawyer, so his solution is always going to be to create laws, to make more regulation,
Right.
to undo
Yeah,
what regulation has already done. Now,
Right,
now we have more
litigation.
regulation. Yeah, he wants to litigate.
Right. Well, speaking of lawyers, the confirmation hearing, I got to say, it's supposed to be a hearing for them to investigate the nominee,
Right.
and figure out if they want to vote for him or not.
Sure.
But 70% of these senators just treat it like they just make it into some lawyerly grilling. They start off nice. Now, Mr. Kennedy, I want to wear, and by the end they're just screaming at him.
Some of them are.
like they're courtroom lawyers.
I know,
It's
it's
literally
ridiculous.
like you're watching a court case.
It's ridiculous.
It's like you're watching a prosecution.
And he's got that. I was noticing that he's got a speech thing.
Yeah.
Right. I forget what it's called, but he's got that, and they seem to be exploiting that a little bit.
Yeah. Right.
Like he's now move on.
Yeah,
now move
because
on.
they can talk over him.
They can talk
basically.
over him so easily, and you can see he gets a
The
little
crazy part
frustrated.
is you can tell he's a lot more knowledgeable on these things than
He
they
is.
are.
Oh, yeah.
But they're not letting him get it out because they're acting as they're literally acting like a prosecution in a court case.
Right.
That's what they sound like.
Right.
And he's the suspect. He's
Yeah.
the main suspect.
Yeah.
So it's crazy. And you don't learn a damn thing. There was one I wanted to show you. This is from the first day of the hearing with Bernie Sanders.
Oh God.
And because
Well,
people
once
people were
these
laughing
little
at this.
things-
People were laughing at this. They bring in exhibits and everything. And
What is that?
you'll see. They bring in exhibits and everything. And there was a big focus for RFK. They didn't talk about what he thinks about drug companies or processed food or herbicides and pesticides. They went all in on the anti-vax. They
Right.
wanted to get him for the vaccine
Oh,
stuff.
yeah, that's the big thing.
So
right?
this was Bernie Sanders and his big display of the day. Let's see.
They are selling what's called onesies. These are little things,
Oh, the ones-
clothing for babies. One of them is titled Unfaxed, Unafraid. Next one, and they're sold for $26 a piece, by the way. Next one is No Vax, No Problem. Now, you're coming before this committee and you say you're pro-vaccine. Just want to ask some questions. And yet your organization is making money selling a child's product to parents for $26, which casts fundamental doubt on the usefulness of vaccines. Can you tell us now that you will, now that you are pro-vaccine, that
He's
you're
so
going to
excited,
have your
Bernie.
organization take these products off the market?
Senator, I have no power over that organization. I'm not part of it. I resigned from the board.
Yeah, that was just a few months ago. You founded that. You certainly have power. You can make that call. Are you supportive of this?
I've had nothing to do with
Are you
leadership.
supportive of these onesies?
I'm supportive of vaccines.
Are you supportive of this clothing,
Megyn Kelly's
which
laughing
is
in the
militantly
background.
anti-vaccine?
I am supportive of vaccines. I will. I want good science, and I want to protect.
But you will
vaccines.
not tell the organization you founded not to continue selling that product. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So the whole thing is like are you supportive of these onesies?
right. That's yeah.
You know, like that's incriminating.
But
you know?
that's how they. But that's their whole line of questioning with him. Do you support this? Do you support that?
Yeah. Well, the thing with the vaccines with him is that he questions some of their efficacies, and he questions why we mandate them for U.S. Newly U.S. born babies,
Right.
Whereas other countries don't. The one that I think got focused on during the hearing a lot was hepatitis B. There's a hepatitis B vaccine. Everybody gets it. You get it at like 1 day old or something like that. And I'm pretty sure it's mandatory that you get it at that young age. Or, they make it hard if you don't, hard for you and your family. And looking back, well, it used to be like people were getting it as kids, not as newborn babies. And hepatitis B is something that you get usually from from blood or something like that. it's not really something that babies get. The only way a baby can really get it is if the mother has it. It can be transferred.
Yeah, right, sure.
So the question is, well, if you have a mother that tests negative for Hep B, why are you insisting on vaccinating a newborn baby with it? And it's a good question. So there's question as to well, who's getting paid lots of money for these vaccines, which are now mandatory for your 1-year-old or excuse me, a 1-day-old baby to get. And it's a good question, especially when other countries don't have such a vaccine schedule. They have a less ramped up vaccine schedule. So the vaccine thing is really what everybody focused on. It was the main contention of the entire hearing, even though his whole campaign and what he plans to do as health secretary is not, or health czar, is not really, that's not really the focus of it. But that's that's what all the senators wanted, and it's probably because a lot of them are paid. He did call out Bernie Sanders for getting like $2 million from pharmaceutical companies or pharmaceutical donations. Bernie insists that no, those are the employees, those are not the executives, or whatever he says in his Brooklyn accent. I don't know why he sounds like this all the time. He definitely doesn't have to. But so anyway, and then on the Republican side, there was Bill Cassidy, and Bill Cassidy he's a Republican from Louisiana. He's a former doctor, I guess retired doctor. And he said openly, he's like, I'm struggling to vote for you because he's like, I'm on the same page with all the food stuff and the preventative care stuff. You know, we don't want fat people. We don't need people on medication. But as far as the vaccines go, he's like, he basically was hinting that he's not going to vote for him because of the vaccine stuff. And I don't know if it was like trying to make it seem like I'm really considering it and then it's going to be a no, or if he's actually going to come around and do it. Yeah. But if he doesn't get Bill Cassidy, he's probably not going to be able to.
Really?
Yeah, he's not going to be confirmed.
Well, it doesn't sound like Cassidy's, because Cassidy, it doesn't sound like he's going to go vote for him then.
He said he was struggling with it. He sounded like very sympathetic, but it was like,
I know, but they usually don't tip their hands like that unless
it's going to be a no. They prepare you for it's like a soft landing. It's like it's going to be a no, but I'm going to act really nice to you too, so everybody understands.
Right, because he's a Republican and he's going to try to ride both horses.
He's a Republican and he's going to get a lot of flack. In fact, he might get primaried if he does that.
Exactly. He's trying to avoid that. So, I really didn't want to do it. I really didn't want to do it.
Yeah. So anyway, the point is that the hearing, I'm just thinking about the grand scheme of things and the point of a confirmation process, which the Senate decides. It's not in the Constitution how they do it, but the Constitution says they are supposed to advise and give consent to these to the president's nominees, and they just treat it like a spectacle. It's just like a TV courtroom type deal. It's not
the way they grill is really. I mean, there's
nobody learns anything. Nobody learns a damn thing.
No.
And they have these aides that prepare things for them that you could tell they haven't even read ahead of time. They're just handed a piece of paper and they're going to read it out and act appalled or ashamed or something. It's just a bunch of
they're asking these specific questions that they feel that they can make him look crazy with, especially the vaccine thing. Because everybody's, we need vaccines. We need vaccines. Yeah. And he's not anti-vax. I mean, that's a fact.
His contention is they haven't been studied properly.
Right.
And he's probably right about that.
Right.
So
yeah, and and if they can, if they don't want him confirmed, right? The Democrats don't want him confirmed because they get a lot of money from the pharmaceutical companies that he's going after.
Yeah,
millions.
Yeah, they do
for their campaigns. Yes, they do. That's what they are empowered by this.
I mean, the fact is
they're in grave danger.
Yeah,
of losing their jobs if he gets.
There are people advocating for prescribing Ozempic to 12-year-olds who are overweight and obese.
Yeah, that's
if you're 12,
that's nuts.
They're going to give you a pill that was not designed to cause weight loss.
No, it wasn't.
But does.
It was diabetes, right?
I think it might have been. Yeah. But does cause weight loss. So they prescribe it for that.
Yep.
That also leads to shrinking bones and muscles, right?
Shrinking muscles, yep.
And bones. People have gotten bone diseases from that.
That is
bone
true.
loss.
That is true.
It's terrible.
It is terrible.
People thought maybe Bernie would be a little warm to him just because Bernie's a little bit different. But the fact is, Bernie's proven over and over again he's completely he's just a cog in the Democrat Party. He's not anything special. He's not some sort of renegade. So he's not gonna vote against he's not gonna not toe the line.
No, of course not. Come on,
And he with his little spectacle with the onesies,
With the onesies.
he made it very clear that he's not voting for Kennedy.
All right, so I have another real quick grilling that he did here. Go to 15.
Okay.
Grilling that he received.
Kennedy.
Yeah, Kennedy.
Okay.
This is Michael Bennett, the
senator. Yeah. Michael Bennett. Okay.
Senator from Colorado. I
He's
believe.
awful.
5 words you pronounce wrong 2 years before your brain starts shutting down.
What is that?
Dementia is now known as type 3 diabetes, according to the Mayo Clinic, where doctors
I didn't
have
send
made
you
a
that.
shock.
No, it's an ad.
Oh,
I
God.
have to move.
Let's see. What do you think it is? 5 words you start pronouncing wrong right before you get dementia.
Oh, I don't know.
What do you think
What?
it is? I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know. Okay. That's dumb. All right. You want me to play this?
Yeah.
All right. And I guess, yeah, Megyn Kelly was right there for this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you say that Lyme disease is highly likely a materially engineered bioweapon? I made sure I put in the highly likely. Did you say Lyme disease is a highly likely militarily engineered bioweapon?
I probably did say that.
Did you say that?
And that's what the developer of
I
Lyme
want all
disease
of our
said.
colleagues to hear it, Mr. Kennedy. I want them to hear it. You said yes.
No, he doesn't.
Did you say that
Yeah.
exposure to pesticides
All right, that's it.
causes children?
I just wanted
Okay.
to bring up about the Lyme disease.
Yeah. I
Yes.
didn't know that.
Didn't know what.
I didn't know that there was a controversy over Lyme disease.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what happened was what he's talking about. He's talking about a podcast that he had back in I think it was January,
Okay.
and he
January,
had
what, last year or this year?
this last just January that just passed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's pretty recent.
Oh.
He had a guest on, and the guest. Well, okay. Have you ever heard of Plum Island?
Yeah.
Do you know about it?
No.
Okay, Plum Island is it's an interesting thing because Plum Island is part of New York.
Yeah.
Right. It's right off of Long Island. It's right off of the North Fork, Orient Point. Like,
Okay.
Up, all the way north, like
Yeah.
almost up like toward us. That's how far it is.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting place. Okay, it's right across from Connecticut.
Oh, yeah.
It's right across from Lyme, Connecticut.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
and that's where this Lyme's disease, which they had never seen before, suddenly cropped up.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's got an interesting.
Back in like the 60s or something?
No, it was like in the mid 70s.
Oh, okay.
What happened was these children in that area, school-age children, started coming down with all of these symptoms. They started getting their joints were aching, and they were getting brain fog, and
Yeah.
and I don't know all of the symptoms, but they were getting symptomatic of something, and they were going to
Right.
doctors. They couldn't figure it out, and it was widespread. It was all over the place. So they brought in Yale experts came in. I guess doctors from Yale came in, and they tried to examine. They tried to figure out what the heck was going on.
Okay.
Okay, and they didn't know what it was. Originally, they called it Lyme's arthritis or something like that.
Mm.
Okay,
Okay.
and they finally figured out that it came from a tick infection.
Okay.
It was actually carried by that, and it was a virus I had never seen before. It was called one of those they call spirochetes.
Okay.
They're really
Okay.
nasty, like corkscrew shaped viruses that drill into you and
All
infect you. And it happened to be right across from Plum Island. Turns out Plum Island is owned by the government. It's got this big long history going back to the Revolutionary War, and the Dutch and the French owned it and all this stuff. But then we took it over and made it a research facility for diseases.
Great.
Yeah. And it's diseases, animal diseases in particular, but it starts to look, you start looking into this thing, and you're getting whiffs of,
This is a little Wuhan-esque.
yeah,
Right.
It has this whiff of gain of function.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
right.
Well, it turns out they took this island over, and the government took the island over.
Island, okay.
Yeah, it's an island.
Yeah.
And they took it over. They turned it into this research facility, and then they started doing research on ticks and flies and sand fleas.
Mm-hmm.
and they wanted to turn it into a biological weapon. Now, when did they wanted to turn animals into biological weapons.
Oh, great.
They call them insect vectors. Insect vectors are organisms that can actually transmit diseases,
vector, right.
and they want it to be a weapon.
That's crazy.
So where did this crazy idea come from? If you look further, have you ever heard of Operation Paperclip?
I have. I don't know what it is.
Okay.
I've heard it referenced on the mysterious parts of the internet before.
Okay, the mysterious
Yeah.
part. Well, Operation Paperclip, to sum it up, goes back to World War II, when we took all of these Nazi scientists from Nazi Germany and allowed them to come here. They weren't going to be prosecuted. They weren't part of the trials or anything.
Yeah.
And we put them to work.
And we employ them.
We employed them as
Yeah.
scientists. Okay.
Yep.
In what? Rocketry, right?
Mm-hmm.
And bioweaponry.
Yeah.
And we put a bunch of them on Plum Island.
Great.
Yeah. So they developed, all these Nazis developed these, well, now none of this is proven. Okay. See, that's the thing that I mentioned about Kennedy, by the way, is because, okay, well, his podcast, he had this woman on who, I forget her name. I wrote her name down here. Chris Newby. Chris Newby, she's a scientist.
Okay.
She wrote a book about it because she got Lyme disease.
Lyme disease. Yeah.
Lyme disease. And she found out all of this and gathered all of this data, and Kennedy took an interest in it.
Right.
And, Kennedy is a lawyer.
Yeah.
He
sues people.
He sues people. He likes to litigate.
Yeah.
That's what he does.
Yeah.
That's what he makes his money by litigating. But he also he's got a lawyer's mind. He's trained to collect evidence. And he may not have enough evidence to convict. He may not have enough evidence to supply a jury or a judge. But there are times when you have enough, then you say, oh, this is true. This is actually going to wind up true. If I have 16 pieces of evidence. When I get up to 20, I can go to court.
Yeah.
And then you can win. But he already knows what the outcome ultimately is going to be. And when he asks him, most likely, he didn't say that Lyme's disease came from was a bioweapon, but he alluded to it by saying it's likely. Why is he saying it's likely? Because he just fantasized it? No,
right.
He has seen evidence moving in that direction. That's how lawyers think.
The problem is somebody who thinks logically, and if you're a lawyer, you are a very logical person.
Right.
If you're a good lawyer, you know that when you use the word likely, you're not saying that it's a fact. That's different than saying something is certain.
Right.
So if he says likely, it means that he's seen enough evidence that it's worth looking into.
Right.
And for right now, based on the evidence he's seen, it points more in one direction than the other. But it does not eliminate the possibility that the inverse is true.
Right.
So he knows that, but
Right.
people who are just thinking impulsively and and even just people who are thinking casually, they're like, oh, he's a conspiracy theorist. No. It doesn't mean he's a conspiracy theorist. He's heard a set of facts and he's weighing the likelihood. So
right. Well, that's the thing.
He's actually being very rational about it.
Right. Everything is a conspiracy theory these days. Everything that you come up with that, people don't like, especially politicians.
Right.
Oh, it's a conspiracy theory.
Well, there's a difference between a conspiracy and a conspiracy theory. A conspiracy is a thing.
Yeah.
It's a real thing. It means a group of people got together and decided something behind somebody else's back.
I know, but before they're conspiracy, often they are theorized about.
Yeah, sure. Of course.
So maybe
everything's a theory till you prove it.
That's the stage that maybe we're at with him.
Yeah.
So the thing is that I wanted to bring that up because he knows that there's probably a connection to that.
Right. I mean, isn't the idea that I think John Ratcliffe, the new CIA director,
right.
just released a report that found that the CIA finds it most likely that COVID came from a lab in Wuhan,
right.
or that it was human made.
Right.
So that was a conspiracy theory, the conspiracy being that the Chinese and American scientists were conspiring to come up with a bioweapon, not that it released intentionally, but that they were doing it there. And then it got released accidentally, let's say. That would be the theory. And you'd be a conspiracy theorist until you believe it.
Right.
I mean, if you believe it, until it's
you've
proven true.
Right.
And then you're just a believer in something that's true that is a conspiracy.
Yeah, well,
now you're not a theorist anymore.
Right.
You're just a conspiracy knower now. Now you just know about one.
Now, the funny thing about Plum Island is that there is an association with Plum Island with another lab.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What's that?
Fort Detrick in Maryland.
Okay.
Fort Detrick in Maryland is the lab that Obama said cannot engage in gain of function research anymore.
Oh, okay.
So they picked it up and moved it to Wuhan.
Yeah. Oh my God.
So
Great.
yeah. So that's interesting.
Great.
So I don't know where that's going to go, or if it'll ever go anywhere. But I'll
Yeah.
tell you one thing: if this guy, if Bobby gets in, if he's appointed secretary,
Yeah.
a lot of this stuff is going to come out
Yeah.
over time. And honestly, he's a Kennedy. Man, I don't want to see anything bad happen. I don't, I
No.
disagree with that guy in so many things politically, obviously, but I don't want to see anything bad happen to another
Right.
Kennedy. That's for sure.
We actually live near the compound.
Yeah, we drive past it all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're in the same town.
We're in the same town.
Have you met Bobby?
I've met him twice.
Yeah.
Once at the gym.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But another time at another function. But
Yeah. But you don't
I
know
don't
him
hang, I don't hang out
personally.
with him.
or
No, 20 years.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. He's definitely the black sheep of the family.
Yeah,
Right.
He is.
And he's, I think he's been that for a while, but he's definitely leaned into it this past.
Well, I don't know if you're aware of this, but do you remember
past few years?
Do you remember our first? Do you remember our first post office box that we opened?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was
but-
in Hyannisport.
That was Hyannisport.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're aware of it, but the post office right there is literally
I know.
right across the street from Bobby's house.
Yeah.
Oh, it's really
Because I'll go on drives.
Yeah.
And I frequently go to Hyannisport.
Right.
And I'll on a drive, just
right.
going out and need some fresh air. And yeah, so I'm very familiar
Oh,
with that.
okay.
whole
I didn't
area.
know if you knew.
Yeah.
that. Okay.
Yep.
All
Yep. I don't know how locked down it is now, though. I think it might be locked down more.
It's a terrible post
No.
office, by the way. That's why we're not there anymore.
But I think I have a feeling Hyannisport is a little more heavily surveilled now than it was, a year ago.
Yeah.
As it should be. So, all right.
Okay. So I just want to bring that up. Anything else?
Yeah. Speaking of China,
Sure.
not Wuhan, but China. So, okay.
Oh, I know what you're going to bring
Speaking
up.
of China,
Go ahead.
you know what I'm going to bring up?
I think so.
Okay. Have you heard of DeepSeek? Yes.
Yeah. I know you're going to bring that up. Yeah.
Okay, DeepSeek.
I've heard of it. Yes.
Now, let me say they have a great logo. So far, I like the thing is they have such a nice logo compared to like ChatGPT. DeepSeek is this new AI,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, sure.
It's so good compared to ChatGPT. Like the name is better, the logo's better, that I actually like it better just based on branding
It is a
alone, just
better
based
name.
on
It is a
marketing.
better name.
DeepSeek's a good name, and they have this cool like whale logo. Anyway, I'm thinking about it from a marketing perspective. And Rory Sutherland, who that I'm a fan of, and I think you're probably a fan of too.
Yeah, I like Rory.
He said the same thing, and I had already thought it, but I saw him. I read a tweet from him where he was like, well, their logo's on the right track. So, but anyway, so the idea behind DeepSeek, just some background. How much do you know? Do you know a lot or a little?
A little bit. Yeah, I know.
Okay.
I know enough that they affected the stock market a little bit.
Oh well, a lot. I mean, they pummeled Nvidia.
Yeah,
right?
well, Nvidia. I mean, I'm an investor in Nvidia, and
Well, then I hope you bought in
I bought. Yeah, what happened was it's kind of weird
when
because
it dropped.
I don't know. I had Nvidia back when I was looking at stuff, and I looked into them. I liked the management. I liked the company, so I owned some of the company.
Okay.
And it took right up, and I sold it.
Okay.
And not because I didn't like the company anymore. I figured I'd get back into it.
Yeah.
But because I saw another opportunity, I wanted to move some of the money over,
Okay.
which I did. And I put the money there. And so what happened was the other night, I just had this. It wasn't in the news. Nothing happened. I didn't know. I said, you know what? I think it's time to get back into Nvidia again. So that morning, I put in an order to buy some more shares of Nvidia, knowing absolutely nothing.
Okay.
And that was what I wound up doing, was buying Nvidia very low.
I was going to say, I hope you bought right before. I mean, right after it happened, not before it happened.
No, it was after it happened.
Okay.
It still
I mean,
went.
they lost like billions of dollars.
Yeah, they lost like 70% of their
Crazy.
value, which
Yeah.
is ridiculous. Like 150 billion or something.
Yeah, so
like that.
so the background on this, because people listening don't realize, or some of them aren't going to realize.
Yeah.
The reason this is all relevant is because DeepSeek is an AI company.
Right.
It's a Chinese AI company.
Right.
Anything that is a Chinese company means that it is government sanctioned in China.
100%.
The government has its tendrils fully invested, fully gripping whatever that entity is. You might as well consider it a state-owned company.
You mean Jack Ma is not an independent entrepreneur?
No, he's not. Okay, and then he disappear for a few months.
He disappeared. And then he came
that was a little
back.
weird. Anyway, so
Well, he's involved in this too, I think.
Any company, especially a big one that's doing big things,
Right.
is the Chinese government is a full participant, if not just in complete control. And in this case, they developed an AI model that they just put out there. They went full open source, which means anybody can see the source code, anybody can download it, run it from themselves, even change it if they wanted to. That outperforms ChatGPT's best model. And it's called a chain of thought model. Okay, it's a R1. It's called a chain of thought reasoning model. And what that means is how normal AIs work, like the ones we've all been using, the ones that respond like right away.
Sure.
How they work is they work on sort of, this is like a very top level sort of description, because I'm not an expert myself in AI, but they work on probability, word probability. They take your input and they have learned, they've gone through a big data set and they know what's the highest probability next thing to say in response to a certain thing.
Okay.
So that's how they do it. And that's why you get weird answers sometimes.
I hope it's better than the predictability of my iPhone.
Yeah, well, Siri is not, this new Siri thing isn't working well for
Siri
me.
is like
So anyway.
challenged.
Yeah, I know. I yelled at it yesterday. I don't know if you heard me yelling at the gym. I was yelling at Siri. It doesn't respond. It talks to you like a person, but it doesn't respond like a person. Like if you're just like, hey, knock it off. It doesn't know that you're unhappy with it. So anyway, so it's very good. And okay, so it does a different kind of thinking. It does not do a probability-based answer based on like, oh, what's the next probable word for what this person just said. It does chain of thought, which means, or is it called chain of thought? It's chain of my computer keeps going black. Yeah, chain of thought reasoning. It goes through logically each basic step of thinking in order to figure out a problem. So if you give it like a math problem, it's not going to solve it based on like what's the most likely word to come next to answer this. It's going to actually go through the steps, and it's going to take a long time. It's going to say thinking, and it's going to, that's why some of these, they take 30 seconds to answer, but they're supposed to be better. They're supposed to be more like how a person would think about the answer than just like, well, let me check my data set and see what's the most likely answer. It's actually going to figure it out. It still gets things wrong, but the big thing is that it cost under $6 million for them to train this, which sounds impossible.
It sounds impossible.
Okay,
but to put billions into it.
A few things about that. One, you should never trust the Chinese government about any of the numbers.
Yeah, that might not be true.
Total head fake.
Yeah.
Two, that number is supposed to be this one round of training. This final round of training took them that much. That's what it's supposed to be.
Right.
I don't think that counted research and development, CapEx, probably billions of dollars in that regard. Okay, so that 6 million number isn't really that impressive. It's not as impressive as what people first thought, just hearing it like in the news as a headline. And the other thing is there's some shady business about how they train this model, because there are people that asked it like, hey, what's your name? Or like, are you ChatGPT? It says I'm ChatGPT. Like, well, okay, it thinks it's ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Well, if it thinks it's ChatGPT, I wonder where it got its information from. It probably used ChatGPT to train and develop this model.
ChatGPT, you mean OpenAI?
Yeah, OpenAI.
Yeah.
So it thinks it's OpenAI's model, ChatGPT, in some cases.
Right.
And it's probably because that DeepSeek used ChatGPT to train the model.
Right.
That works in a process called distillation. Distillation is when they take one really powerful model and they have another model. I'm just sort of describing it in a poor way, but they basically use the smaller model they use the bigger model to train the smaller model. So if you have this really big, powerful model, you can get the smaller model if it trains solely on like the answers that the bigger model gives out.
Yeah.
The smaller one can almost become a mini version of this huge model. and it can do it pretty fast versus like training from the ground up. That's called distillation. ChatGPT has it against their terms and service to use their model for distillation, but China probably did it anyway.
Yeah, they would.
That's
do
most
it.
likely.
You
And
can't-
Microsoft even said, I believe they said, okay, like somebody in China has been accessing ChatGPT heavily using the API, which is an endpoint, like really heavily.
Right.
And we think they're connected to DeepSeek. So that kind of answers it right there. We know that's probably
Right.
what they did.
Also, you cannot trust them when they do their reporting at all about money or anything.
No.
Because $6 million. Come on, $6 million
Yeah.
to develop that. That's absolutely ridiculous.
There's also a question about if they have chips, certain
Well, that's what
computer
I was going
chips
to
that they're
mention.
not
Right.
allowed to have.
Right. So that's the
Right.
other thing about chips. They're supposedly, they could do it with like a fraction of the number of chips, right?
Yeah.
Which is what the NVIDIA is all about, right?
Yeah.
So that's why the investors got scared and
Yes.
they dumped their stock, which
Yes.
is so stupid.
It is
Everything is
stupid.
so emotional on Wall Street. That's why when I tell people how to invest, which I do,
Yeah.
I don't make stock recommendations. Anybody that comes and says, I want to be a day trader, do not become a day trader.
Right.
You can't become a day trader. You'll think you are, and you're not.
You're not fast enough.
You're not fast enough. You cannot compete with the pros.
Right.
They have access to information. They have access to equipment that you don't have. You're not putting an order into the floor of the exchange. You're sending your order to another day trader who's going to take a chop off of yours. There's so much to it.
Yeah.
And I don't, I don't know.
Actually, you know what I heard the other
I'm
day?
already carried away
A friend
with it.
told me the other day, I didn't know this, that the these high frequency trading firms,
Yeah.
they have, and I think it's regulated, they all have to have the same length of wire. They all have cable, they all have wound up cable
Yeah.
in their building.
Right.
To make sure they all have the same length wire.
Right.
So none of them have a,
yeah,
microsecond
yeah.
advantage
Yeah.
over another one.
when I was involved in Wall Street, it was just the beginning of all that stuff. And that sounds a little picayune to me, but maybe it's right.
No, HFT is crazy.
But you're talking about algorithms working at speeds that, just ridiculous. I can't
It's
imagine.
milliseconds.
Less than that. I don't even,
I mean, people who play like Fortnite. Okay, if you have a ping that's higher than the other person,
Yeah.
they're gonna shoot you before you do.
Yeah,
So I mean, it's not
Yeah.
that hard to imagine that if you're trading millions or billions of dollars,
Right.
you're gonna have a problem too.
Yeah. So anyway, I wanted to point out that was part of it too. They were worried about the chips, which we can't rely on what their volume of chips is for
DeepSeek.
DeepSeek. We can't rely on any of that.
No,
So
absolutely not.
They lie about
Absolutely.
everything.
Because we have embargoes on them. They're not supposed to get chips, and they probably have their hands on way more than
Oh yeah.
than we're supposed to be letting them. Okay,
Yeah.
so anyway, I
Yeah.
just thought that was
That's
interesting.
It is interesting. It's interesting to see where it's going to go.
Yeah.
Look, I think it's a good thing, believe it or not. People
Yeah, sure.
are freaked out. I think it's a good thing. You know what? Because we have to get off our butts. And we have to get our own money. We have to get our own investors, and we have to start becoming better than the competition.
Well, Biden was
competitive.
The Biden administration
killed
was
the competition.
They were hamstringing the AI companies.
Yeah.
Which is probably a terrible idea.
Terrible.
Terrible idea. So anyway, I mean, that would be like if we hamstrung our nuclear programs during the Cold War. It's like,
Right.
well, we can't afford to. Sorry.
And from what I understand, not only is it this company,
Yeah.
this Chinese company, but there are a bunch of others ready, waiting, and they're all coming into market right now.
I think there's another one who's cropping up now too. Yeah.
There's probably about 5. You know what? There's probably 5 or 6 of them. It may not only be China, by the way. We'll see what happens.
I don't know who else would have the resources to do this.
Anybody that China can give technology and money to,
I guess,
probably
I
like
guess.
North Korea, maybe. But
Yeah.
we'll see. Well, yeah, I know. I can't picture France becoming a hub of artificial intelligence
No.
all of a sudden.
Not really. You, I thought you did have something else. No, you didn't want to
I
talk
wanted-
about EOs or anything?
No.
Executive orders?
Yeah, I was going to ask you a little bit about that. I don't want to get into it too much. Maybe we can get into it in the future. But you know what? I'm a little confused about executive orders, executive actions.
I'll just lay it out right now. You want to know the difference?
Yeah.
Okay. It shouldn't be confusing, but it is because of the terminology. Executive orders are official. They're legally binding. The president signs it. It goes into the federal registrar. The agencies have to comply. That's an executive order.
Right.
It's essentially, it's a legally binding document.
Right.
Okay. Signed by the president that cites his statutory authority to take whatever action
And
there
it
is.
becomes, in effect, the law of the land.
It's essentially the law.
Is it the president legislating?
No, because it's the president is enacting an official policy based on statutory legislation that's already in existence.
Oh, okay.
So it's based on and it can, based on the law. So he's
I
saying
see.
he cites, sometimes it's just citing the Constitution.
I see.
Sometimes it's citing the National Emergencies Act. The
Right.
National Emergencies Act was a big one, and it's going to be a big one because in that case, Congress basically passed a law. This is in the 70s, I think, that said, okay, the president at any point can declare a national emergency, and he can cite these reasons here. And if he declares a national emergency, he may avail himself to this list of powers here that he does not have under normal circumstances, like moving money around, controlling movements of people and goods and stuff like that within the country. So all of a sudden, if the president declares a national emergency, he has control over things that he wouldn't otherwise.
Okay.
So sometimes an executive order is saying, I declare a national emergency, I'm taking money from here, and I am building a wall with it. That's what he did during his first term. In this case, he's doing it again for the border, I think for moving troops down there and stuff like that. So an executive action is different. It's a little counterintuitive because it's almost less of an action than an executive order is. It's basically, it can be a memorandum. It can be setting sort of like a policy or even just setting the tone. So it's like, okay, going forward, we're going to be doing more of this. That's an executive action. And it's not a legally binding document that gets recorded in the Federal Registrar like an executive
what
order
would be
is.
like a proclamation?
That would be like an executive action,
Okay.
just a proclamation.
Okay.
Now an executive order would actually be saying, I'm using my legal authority as president to do X, Y, Z, and everybody has to comply now. That would be more like an executive order.
So are executive orders executive actions that are just more legal, or are executive orders, or is it the other way around? Or can one
I think
fall
people
under the
who are
umbrella?
I think people who are more expert in this,
Right.
know, because it's sort of I'm sure there's a level of pragmatism that goes in at this high level on what's best when. Probably like, okay, well, an executive order is based on actual legal authority and it requires, it's going to get challenged. Maybe if we just do an action, it's setting the tone. I don't know.
So some of them, when I see the reporting on some of the stuff that Trump has been doing since he's in office, he sits there, he's in the Oval, right?
Right.
And he shows the signature. That's cool. He shows, right?
Yes.
And he gives the pen out.
Yeah.
Right.
He
That's
does this
cool.
thing.
Those, I think of those as executive orders.
They are.
But when I see the reporting on it, I see the reporters are calling them executive actions.
No, most of them are orders.
I think those
most
are
of them are
orders.
orders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but now some of the stuff that is being reported, they're not all orders. Some of them are actions.
Okay.
Somebody must
it.
be sitting there deciding, is this an order and is this an action?
Right. And I don't have the expertise in knowing which one to use when exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there's some.
I'm sure the most serious ones are orders.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like
DEI, is that an order or
that's
an
an
action?
order. That's an order because it's actually that one was rescinding Biden's executive orders.
That's right. Yeah, some of them do that. Right.
So that was a big one.
Right.
The two gender in the
genders,
military or in the federal agencies.
Right.
That was an order.
That was an order.
I believe.
Okay.
And that's based on his authority as commander in chief.
Right.
Granted to him by the Constitution. So that's referencing the literal law of the land. So So the birthright citizenship one, which we talked about the last podcast, that's an executive order. It's saying going forth, starting, and he gave a date for it, all federal agencies will regard birthright citizenship to be defined as this instead of that. People say he ended it. He didn't end it. He redefined it. There's a difference. Okay. It's saying that it no longer applies. It was never meant to apply to foreigners, basically, who are not citizens of the United States.
Okay.
That's basically what it is. There's one other thing I was going to say about it. Oh yeah, and then the last one, the Paris Agreement exit.
Yeah, right.
That's an executive order because he is officially pulling out of a it's not a treaty, but it was an agreement, an arrangement.
Right.
So it's an official pull out of that too.
Right.
So you know what I did hear though about the birthright one is that I heard that foreigners were actually trying to get C-sections to have their babies taken out, delivered before the deadline, because he set a date for it to go into effect. So they were trying to slip in under the radar, or slip in before the deadline.
Okay, wait a minute. They're having a C-section to comply with so that they'll be Americans?
Yes. Yeah. They're having C-sections. They're trying to. I don't know what the efficacy
Well, they think
they'll
be Americans.
Of this ploy is. No. They will be, because he set a deadline.
Oh, I see. Okay,
he set a date by which this will go into effect.
Right.
So they're trying to give birth before that date in order to count as American citizens.
Okay.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay. So that's it. So it was good. You didn't want to do today's podcast because you weren't in the mood, but I think we had a pretty good one.
I was not in the mood.
Okay.
No.
Well, we had a pretty good one.
Okay.
Okay. Good. We'll have another one.
All right.
Next time.
All right.
All right.
Goodbye.
Bye.